The ANC is holding its second day of its policy conference, and today it's all about the commissions, where they will be deliberating on the issues ventilated at plenary and those discussion documents of the African National Congress that were disseminated to the branches 3 months ago for them to further deliberate. Coming to this conference, the issue of step aside has also been raised by 2 provinces, KwaZulu-Natal and also Limpopo. Other provinces are seemingly in support for the step aside resolution to remain intact as it is. But when you look at further deliberations, particularly on immigration issues that have been topical within the country, which has largely been centered around the Department of Home Affairs, led by ANC NEC member Dr. Aaron Motsoaledi, who is further presented this particular document to the Provincial General Council of the ANC in Mpumalanga. Dr. Motsoaledi, ANC NEC member, the issue of immigration is a topical issue within the country. Just in essence, where are we as a nation and as you, the governing party, on issues that you are presenting, particularly when it comes to immigration? You have been very vocal in saying that migrants, when they come to South Africa, get involved in all sorts of illegal criminality. In Krugersdorp just yesterday, women were raped repeatedly. We don't know as yet if those migrants were illegally in the country or legally in the country. On your immigration policy, what are you proposing?
Yeah, as you said, I presented the document to 2 general councils on Monday. It was Eastern Cape by virtual, and Mpumalanga, I went there physically. But I officially went to Little House on Monday to release the document to the country, so everybody knows. But the branches have been having it for a long time. What we are saying in the document is that we need the overhauling of the whole immigration system of the country. Because we are saying from 1994, ANC as a party never developed an overarching policy on immigration. Yes, the government has got laws. For instance, there are 3 main laws that impact on immigration in the country. It is the Citizenship Act of 1995, the Refugee Act of 1998, and the Immigration Act, Act number 13 of 2002. They impact on immigration. Now, recently, we have passed the BMA Act that allowed us to establish the Border Management Authority and the border guards, which we deployed 2 weeks ago. Now, all those acts deal with immigration, but there's no overarching policy that connects them together and say this is the policy direction. Now, this document is trying to develop that policy direction, but also picking up on issues that have been problematic for the past 28 years.
Mr. Motsoaledi, on the issue specifically on immigration, what is then going to be the response, particularly when you've got the African diaspora that is living within the country? They've had some resistance to some of the immigration policies that South Africa is proposing. When you look at the high influx of Zimbabweans into the country, the high influx of Basotho nationals coming into South Africa, and you look into the immigration policies of other African countries, particularly within the SADC region, which see South Africa as an economic prosperity for them, how are you then going to how are you going to deal with the repercussions of these foreign states reacting to your immigration proposals?
Well, that will be surprising. Every one of those countries have their own immigration laws. Some of them are even tougher than immigration laws in South Africa, for your information. As mentioned by the head of the United Nations High Commission based on refugees, based in Geneva, Mr. Philip Grande, on the 1st of October he was here. He met me, he met the president, he met several civil society organizations, and he said South Africa has got the most progressive refugee laws in the whole world. So some of the countries that you have mentioned here have got immigration laws which are much stricter. We are not doing anything outside the law. We are just doing something that we think is appropriate to respond to our situation. Remember, while we developed this as ANC, 2 weeks ago, there's a committee that presented to the Portfolio Committee on Parliament a committee led by former Director General in the presidency, Cassius Lubisi. I put him together with former members of the Scorpions. You remember the Scorpions, which has disbanded, and data analysts from the SIU, and investigators who were working for the Zondo Commission. I put him together with them. I said, review all the permits and visas that were issued in South Africa from 2004. If you saw that report, which they put in front of the Portfolio Committee on Home Affairs, it's quite disturbing. And one of their recommendations is that we need to re-look at legislation, at the immigration laws and the legislation that controls that. It's a recommendation from people who investigated. For instance, one of the things they are mentioning, in South Africa, in terms of our immigration laws, if you marry a South African, whether you are a man or a woman, but if you get married to a South African, you then and you don't come from South Africa, you don't have a right. You do. I mean, then have a right. And I want to be understood very well. You then have a right to apply for permanent residency and eventually for naturalization, so that you become a South African. That's a noble act. Quite a number of countries do not have it, for your information. But what we found is that the abuse, the level of abuse, is out of this world. We have got more than 2,000 fraudulent marriages in the country. Now, the committee of Dr. Lubisi even discovered that some people don't even get married. They just bring a notarial contract. You know, a contract where you go to a lawyer, yes, and draw a contract. They just bring a notarial contract and say, me and this person stay together. Can this person get South African documents? And they are given. Now, they found that some of the contracts is not even, a notarial contract, you need a lawyer to sign it. Some of them, people just meet and sign them again. Now the question is, should immigration be linked to marriage? That's the question I'm putting there to the commission. Should immigration not follow a different path? And marriage, because when you marry look, you can't control who marries who, by the way, anywhere in the world. When you marry somebody, you marry them out of love. You want to make family with them and you want to stay with them. Should that be linked to you getting certain immigration papers, simply that you are married to this? That leads to abuse of women specifically. And because we have got the Commission on Gender-Based Violence, those are the things that must be looked at. I receive letters and complaints from many women almost every day that I'm married to a person I don't even know. You know, when I came into Home Affairs, there's a lady who stayed for 14 years married to a person she doesn't know. She met her own man, which she loved. She wanted to get married to him. And Home Affairs said, no, in our documents you are married. You can't marry this man. So, so these are issues that are problematic that South Africans need to resolve every day, which needs to be clarified in our immigration policies. So
in essence, Dr. Motsoaledi, you are proposing in your document as the ANC and also in the Cassius Lubisi investigation to the Portfolio Committee in Parliament that if you were to marry, that you are proposing that naturalization through marriage must be scrapped because it's being abused.
No, I'm saying marriage must be controlled by the Marriage Act. Anybody who gets married, there's a Marriage Act in South Africa. It should not be linked to immigration, to affording you some immigration status. If you want to immigrate to South Africa, follow the immigration processes, not the marriage process. That's basically what you say. Because marriage is a natural thing. You can't choose for who must marry who. And I'm saying that must be left to love. And that is regulated by the Marriage Act. Then there's an issue of children. There's a Children's Act in South Africa, which is extremely progressive, which actually clearly states that in the courts of law or even in government, in administration, whatever decision you do, it must be in the best interest of the child. That is in the Children's Act. It should not be linked to immigration issues. That's basically what I'm saying. But I don't want us to stay on that one because there are many other proposals we are making there.
What is your other main bone of contention as we wound up, Mr. Motsoaledi, on South Africa's immigration laws that is the highest risk to the state's security?
The the manner in which people are allowed in the country, as shown by the report from Lubisi, what we are proposing is that we need to have an immigration board. At the present moment, it's only officials in Home Affairs and in one unit of Home Affairs called permitting. Those are the people who allow you to come into South Africa. Whether you are coming a visitor's visa or a worker's visa, study visa, or permit, they are called visas or permits, or permanent residence, eventually temporary residence, naturalization. It's one unit in the Department of Home Affairs. And guess what? One of the reasons why I put this committee by Lubisi is that Bushiri escaped from South Africa. And I discovered that he was actually a permanent resident, him and his wife and the family. They've got permanent resident documents. And when I checked, they were acquired irregularly and fraudulently. And then I heard there's another reverend in Eastern Cape called Omotoso who is being charged allegedly for rape. Somebody tipped me that, no, check his documents, they are also irregular. And I asked myself, but who else? And then while I was doing so, we've just appointed a DDG anti-corruption. And I'm sure you are aware in Home Affairs who are arresting now. We're not joking. Every week we are arresting somebody, whether a worker from Home Affairs or an ordinary citizen or somebody from another country who have been collaborating to defraud our documents. Now, these 14 people in this permitting write a petition to me to say that DDG, that lady who is heading the anti-corruption unit, she must stop investigating our errors. That was very disturbing. Somebody working for the government saying, look, I'm committing errors here. Please don't investigate them. The first question is, if they are truly errors, it means many people are coming to South Africa to establish themselves erroneously, in error. That cannot be sustainable or be accepted. If they are not errors, then it means something very big is happening, is corruption. Then I put up this committee. Now, they found that 12 of those people are actually involved in corrupt activities, whereby people as young as 16 years are given retirement permits. A permit to come and retire at South Africa at 16, 25 years. Half of them are less than 55 years old. And then when they arrive here, they change on permits. Then, what am I leading to? I'm trying to say we need an immigration board, which is not where the determination is not done by Home Affairs only. It's done by at least 11 government departments, which get impacted. Health, higher education, basic education, trade and industry, small business, defense, international development and cooperation, and all that. On top of that, you add trade unions. They get impacted. You saw what happened in the drug industry. They must have a say on immigration. Then, apart from trade unions, civil society. You wouldn't like a situation where civil society wake up every day and take the law into their own hands because they don't have a structure whereby they participate on what must happen. They just react, and then we react after them. It can't go on like that. And lastly, in the document, we have put that there must be 4 experts appointed by the Minister of Home Affairs on the basis of their expertise on regulatory matters, on immigration matters, on international law, on forensic investigations and analysis. Basically, that's what we are saying. But we are also proposing that there must be special immigration courts. And the reason that we are proposing Samkele, in the present legislation, it can take up to 10 years, up to a decade, you going through the process and appealing. If I want to give you an example to understand why we have to change that, you remember there were people who were holed up in a church, in the Methodist church in Cape Town, yes, protesting, and they were called refugees. The real leaders, 3 of them, have already gone through the immigration process, and they were rejected.